Welcome friends, it's Ray. Thank you so much for joining me today. And today I am featuring cards I made with the Simon Says stamp August 2021 card kit. And this card kit is just so adorable. It features a 6x8 stamp set, totally unforgettable. And it has 4 large stamp images. And this was a collaboration between Photoplay and Simon Says Stamp. Photoplay also did some custom papers, pattern papers for the kit. Lovely. Get 2 of these froggies, and they are single-sided. And you get 12 single-sided sheets. So pretty. So pretty. And then there is one that I have cut apart and made a card with. And it has this green floral design. And this beautiful stencil that has clouds and it has water, lily pads, and some, I think that's a lotus. So the flowers that are on the lily pads here. And the stamp set has, of course, the frogs and lots of sentiments, punny sentiments that are really cute. And some lily pads, butterflies, and bugs. And let's see. So here I've stamped some of the images. Stamped and heat embossed them in clear, and they are really cute, so can't wait to use those on cards. And we get 2 A2 envelopes of blue and a chiffon lemon color. Here's an embossing folder, 3D embossing folder. This one is called Pinpoint Starlets, and that's what it looks like. Very nice. We get a half sheet of acetate. I've already cut half of mine. And we get some Dries adhesive foam strips. So those will be nice for making shaker cards. And let's see, we also get some Trinity Stamp sequins mix that it's going to be great for shaker cards. Oh, that's pretty. Look at that. Very pretty. Okay. And then these little googly eyes, which I already have a ton of these. But these are really good for the frog's eyes that are really, yeah, those are going to be cute for the frog's eyes. I don't know if you've seen any of the intro videos by Simon's design team, but a lot of them have added the eyes onto the frog image. Okay. And we get some 8.5 by 11 paper. Get a green, I think that's 65 pound. And then this is the Simon 100 pound navy. And a yellow. And I believe this is Nina 120 pound Nina. Yes, solar white. And we get an inspiration sheet. And let me see, is there anything else? Oh, yep, I missed a pattern paper sheet. I've already cut it. And that one, of course, is single-sided. And then everything fits into the Simon mesh bag that comes with the kit. beautiful. So that way, oh, and I forgot the lollipop. So let's get started creating cards with this kit. Card number 1 I made off camera, but the other 5 cards in this video were made on camera. This one I used Bristol Smooth Strathmore paper to stamp the frog, initially thinking I would do some watercoloring. Ended up using my Ohuhu markers instead. And I will list those colors in the description. But I wanted a rainbow frog and pink ladybugs for this card, and wanted a maze. So I cut the cardstock in 1/2-inch strips and mounted that on foam to make my maze. Use the acetate from the kit. And actually amazing, these are alpha letters that came in last month's kit, the Pink Fresh Puffy Alpha stickers. And that's what I used there. I had fun making this shaker maze card and plan to do another card, same format, and record it so that you can see the process. Card number 2 is a slimline card, and I will be sure to list all of the measurements in the description bar below. And decided to use some pattern paper from the kit, and the large pattern paper measures 2.5 by 6 with a 1/8 inch green mat. And the medium or the other pattern paper is 2 by 6 with a 1/8 inch mat. And so here I am getting my sentiment lined up. I prep my panel for heat embossing of my sentiment. So I used my anti-static powder bag, brought in my Versamarker Onyx Black ink, used my dry erase board, whiteboard eraser, just to try and get a more even stamp. Stamp that twice, and here am actually matting or placing my pattern paper onto my mat, leaving a little over 1/8 of an inch, and then we'll let that dry while I work on my sentiment, which I have cut with a scalloped circle and a plain stitched circle, and now have trimmed down both of my panels and looking to see where I want to place those. And I want to leave about 1/4 of an inch on either side, and using my liquid glue to affix the panels or the focal panels to the white panel. I also cut some strips using scrap paper to affix to the right side of my smaller panel, using a pencil to kind of mark the lines, and then I'll go ahead and apply some liquid glue to that right side of the panel, and using the scrap paper just to make sure that the entire panel is level as I place it on the front card panel. I've trimmed that down and will apply some liquid adhesive and then mount this second panel to my main panel. I place my acrylic block on top so that, well, I am using the wiggle room you have with adhesive, liquid adhesive. So using that wiggle room to position my second panel just where I want it. And that's the beauty of liquid adhesive. So here I'm figuring out where I want to place my blue strip or navy strip and my sentiment as well as my frog. And then I will go ahead and affix that with the liquid glue. I'll go ahead and affix my sentiment circle as well. And I did color all of my frogs for the cards off camera, but we'll be sure to list the alcohol markers and the colors that I used in the description bar below. I used foam squares on the back of my frog to mount him up, and then placed him on top of my sentiment circle, and then went ahead and adhered my panel to my card base using double-sided tape. Next, I brought in my photoplay stickers and picked out a sticker to accent the top of the card, and brought in my pops of color, the lemon chiffon, and added some dots throughout the card. Then I brought my Wink of Stella in just for the top of the frog's head and mouth, and added some glitter there. Used my Nouveau Crystal Morning Dewdrops to add gloss to the eyes, and that finishes this card. Card number 3 is an A2 shaker card, and I have picked out a couple of pieces of the cardstock pattern paper that came in the kit, trimmed off the borders, and here this will be my backer, so I am trimming that down to 4 by 5 1/4. I have also die cut my main a frame using the Hero Arts Infinity wood grain dies to make a frame for the front, and then use double-sided tape and placing my acetate behind my frame, and then using some double-sided foam tape to frame my shaker window. I want to make sure that all of my corners are really tight so that my shaker bits don't have an opening to come out, at the corners. So here I have decided that I want to glue down some of the flowers from the sequin mix that came in the kit, and so that when you shake them, not everything falls to the bottom. I wanted a few to stay in place, and so that's what I've done here. I fixed them with liquid glue using my embossing anti-static powder bag to remove the sticky that might be on the inside of the tape so that my shaker bits don't stick to it. I love these Trinity embellishments. They are really pretty. Um, I'm putting the shaker bits inside of the shaker. I did remove the release tape so that I don't have to futz with that. And then I added some large chunky glitter to the inside of my shaker, and am now placing the backing on that card. Here I'm mounting my shaker to my card base using double-sided tape, bringing out my elements, my lily pads, lotus flower, I believe that's a lotus flower, and then my blue frog. So I'm adhering my lily pads together, trying to determine where I want to position my frog, and adding some liquid adhesive and placing that directly on my panel, my acetate panel or window, I should say. And you'll notice that the cup that the frog is drinking out of is brown. I'm going to change that. And I have affixed my crown to his head, and then bringing in my sentiment that I mm, heat embossed with silver embossing powder and trimmed out off camera. Now I'm using my metallic silver gel pen to bring in the silver. I wasn't sure initially what color I wanted the crown, but decided I do want it silver. So uh, here decided to use some of the googly eyes from the kit on the frog's eyes. So I will go ahead and apply a little adhesive. They do have a sticky back, but I wanted to make sure that that they really will stay attached. So adhesive um, uh, to secure them. I'm bringing in a sticker, bug sticker from the sticker sheet, and placing that on my acetate panel. Here decided I did not like the color that I had colored the cup that my froggy is drinking out of. So I completely covered that with the Lemon Chiffon Pops of Color. Like that much better. Am adding Wink of Stella to my bug and to my flower, and loving it. That finishes that card. Card number 4 is an A2 card and uses pattern paper scraps from the kit. And so here I'm taking a 2-inch roll of double-sided tape, placing 2 strips onto my A2 panel, and removing the release paper and placing the scraps of paper on the panel, leaving about 1/8 of an inch gap, just eyeballing it and making sure that the strips are going in the right direction. And just will do this down the entire length of the panel, turn it over and cut off the excess with my scissors. I saw this technique Natasha on Natasha's channel, not remembering her last name at the moment, but I will link it in the description below. I mean, I've seen the how to use your scraps like this. I've seen that many times, but I had not seen the one of the techniques that Natasha used. And she applied embossing powder, on the double-sided tape, and in between the scraps of paper, heat embossed it, and she calls it a grouting technique because it resembles the grout that you see in ceramic tiles. I thought that was so clever. And so that's what I'm doing here. I am finishing up my panel, trimmed it, off the excess, and then I am applying some of the yellow prism embossing powder we received in a Hero Arts kit. Using that here, I thought that yellow would go well with this, the colors in this Simon kit. And we'll heat emboss that, and voila, very nice, very nice. Here I'm using navy cardstock from my stash, and am prepping for heat embossing, and we'll use some Versamarker ink and some Brutus Monroe Alabaster white embossing powder for my sentiment, using Versamark or Versafine Onyx Black ink for my lily pad, and we'll heat emboss that with clear embossing powder. I use a dry paintbrush to remove excess embossing powder where I don't want it. I also heat emboss the bow on the navy from the kit. I used alcohol markers to color my lily pad, and then I will fussy cut out my bow and my lily pad. Next, I used an MFT Wonky Frames stitch die to cut out my panel. And then here I am using my Versamarker marker on the left side where I needed more embossing powder because maybe the tape didn't, run all the way to the left. So I'm just touching that up here. This Versamarker is great because it gets into, the small areas that I otherwise would not have been able to touch up, at least not easily. Here I'm applying liquid adhesive to the back of my froggy, or the bottom half of him, and placing him on the lily pad, and then we'll bring in the bow and place that on him. And now affixing my panel to my card base using double-sided tape. I stamped and heat embossed my sentiment on navy cardstock, did that off camera, and used Brutus Monroe Alabaster white embossing powder, and now I'm trimming that down to place it, on my card panel. Once I get my image and my sentiment adhered to the panel, I am bringing in some of the googly eyes from the kit, and we'll place, oops, no, I decided I don't want googly eyes because I want to keep this maybe flatter. So what I did on the eyes instead was use some Nouveau Glitter Crystal Drops Morning Dew, and that is going to dry clear. It looks cloudy right now, but it will dry clear. Then I bring in some deep sea pops of color because that's close to a navy, and add a few drops throughout my panel. Bring in my wink of Stella and color the froggy glitter style. So cute. Card number 5 is a slimline card, and I have my Hero Arts Tropical Foliage Bold Prints background stamp in my Misty. Have inked it up using Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide, and am using my dry eraser on the outside of my Misty to get hopefully more even coverage. Just found this in a stash of the kids' old supplies and thought I would try it since there are a lot of tools on the market for this now. I thought I would try the dry eraser. I think I saw Jennifer McGuire use this like a year ago. So here I have applied some clear embossing powder on top of my Distress Oxide ink and have heat embossed the top of this panel, and then brought in some squeezed lemonade and wild honey Distress Oxides and blended them over the top.
And so because I heat embossed, you know, all I need to do is wipe that off of the surface afterwards, and my green stays intact. I have trimmed that panel down and cut it at an angle, placing it onto a white panel, leaving about a 1/8 inch border. And then am bringing in the cutoff piece of the panel to extend it down at the bottom. I will then trim that panel down so that I have the 1/8 inch all around, bringing in the sentiment that I heat embossed with VersaFine Onyx Black ink off camera and cut down to a 1-inch strip, bringing that in, placing it on my panel, and then we'll trim that down. Love the angle of that. It gives continuity to this panel. So now I'm placing my panel using liquid adhesive, placing it onto a black mat, leaving about 1/8 of an inch, and I'm just eyeballing it. And then I will trim it down to within about 1/8 of an inch. That just seems easier to me sometimes than pre-cutting my matting. So I'm using some of the Simon Says Stamps dot runner to affix this panel to my card base. So here I'm bringing in some leaves that I had left over from a prior card, and these were cut using the Hero Arts Leaves and Vines fancy die. So I'm just placing those or trying to see where I want to place them on my panel. Once I get them positioned where I want them, I will affix them with liquid glue, and then the center leaf I will use foam squares, and my froggy I will use foam squares for it as well. Off camera, I used alcohol markers to color my frog and used Nouveau glitter crystal drops in Morning Dew for his eyes, and then I colored the cup that he's drinking out of, but then I used white Blizzard glitter drops on top to make that sparkle. Card number 6 is an A7 5x7 card, and had fun creating this. I die cut an oval from the Hero Arts Infinity ovals dies and cut out a little wedge like a pie to make my lily pad. And then I used some distress ink in pine needles just around the edges to give it that burnished or edgy look, for lack of a better phrase. And then I brought in a Hoppy. I cut my stamp apart, the sentiment apart, and brought in my first frog and put him in the background, and then will actually use this card design uses the Freshly Made Sketches number 498. I thought this card came out well. I did enter it into the Freshly Made Sketches challenge, so that was really fun. I will leave a link in the description below to the Freshly Made Sketches website, or blog, I should say, so that you can check out the challenge if you're not familiar with it. It's really fun. And that's it for my cards today. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will be back soon with part 2 of the video for this kit. I hope you liked today's video and will give me a thumbs up and subscribe if not already a subscriber. Until next time, good day, friends.